Okay, this is a really quick tutorial on how to get the Xbox controller working for you. Just a quick caveat, we're taking a few little shortcuts because we're going to remove some, this just because it's simple for us. We know we're targeting Windows, and you'll know that you're not going to be using keyboard and mouse input. You're going to be using an Xbox controller input. If you're wanting to be a bit more agnostic and give choices, you need to use a little bit more complex method. So we're keeping things simple so you can focus on game design and focus on developing the scripting skills. So the first thing you need to do at the moment, let's look at what it looks like at the moment. So all I've done is a base scene, I've added a quick terrain, and I've used the rigid body first person controller straight out of the box from the standard assets package. So I can use my window key, ANS, I can move around, I can look around by using my mouse, and I've got my Xbox controller plugged in, and I can move forward and to the side, but I don't look. So I'm now moving my right keypad and there's no action. So let's escape out of that and see what we need to change to get that working. So we go edit project settings and we go straight to our inputs. It generally takes you straight here, and all we want to change is mouse X and mouse Y. First of all, we need a bit of a multiplier because it tends to be, so change that to about 0.4 or 0.5. This needs to move, the X-axis needs to be the fourth axis, and I'll explain where I get that from in a second. That needs to be a joystick axis. This needs also to be a joystick axis on the Y, and that's going to get the fifth axis. And I'll explain where I'm getting why I know it's fourth and fifth in a second. So again, we just X and Y mouse, 0.5 or 0.4 will play with that sensitivity, and then fourth axis for the X axis and fifth axis for the Y axis. Here you can also change some of your other settings. So there are some other input settings that you want to do. You might use this later on. But this is we're just going to focus on these basic settings. So now we've changed that. Let's press play. So again, I still have my keyboard settings, my arrows. I'm now using ASD moves, but my mouse, I'm now moving my mouse. There's no mouse action. So I'm going to pick up my Xbox controller. Yep, I'm moving around, but now I can actually change my gaze. I can now look around. Okay. So the next thing you want to do is you're going to want to trigger an event based on a button press. So before we do that, in the folder of little tricks, I've got some notes here for you. I've explained all the settings here. I use 0.4, I changed 0.4. You might want to make it specific to your project, but just know you need to change that. This is a little example of an if statement you do for an event, and I'll quickly fix that. This is the greater details. You want to do things in a more complex way, you'll need to read that. So you need to assume you're in target windows, which we are for simplicity. The left trigger is represented by the range of 1 to 0, and the right trigger's range is 0 to 1. All return values are strings. So if you're going to want to use them as a bool or as an int or a float, you'll need to change them, change the value. So let's look at that reference. So in the reference here, I'll scroll down to these images. So it actually has, so we were looking at, that's where I got fourth axis and fifth axis. So you can also use your D-pad here. Each of these buttons have one, and we're now going to change, we're going to target button 0. I want to use button 0. If you scroll up, you'll see each platform is different depending on the axes and buttons. So that's why we're keeping things simple. We're just targeting Windows. Okay. So let's go into, from Unity, got my first person controller. I'm going to edit this script here, which I've already got open over here. I've already scrolled down to where the jump occurs, and we're just going to expand this. I'm going to create an additional way to jump. So I'm going to Control F. Now what I actually want is, I'll go into my script. So input, get key down, joystick button 0. Go into here, and I'm going to replace that. And all this is and if it's false. So if it's already jumping, this won't trigger. So it stops you doing a double jump. So if you really want, you get tricky and actually enable a double jump. So that's a little bit advanced player mechanics. So we're saying if joystick button 0 is pressed, jump. Also we've left if a jump, which is the triggered to the space bar, that was back in that configuration panel. Jump is based on the space bar. We are going to jump. So I'm going to save that. If we go into Unity, press play, I'm jumping with my space bar, and I'm now pressing A on my controller, and I'm jumping. Now, I could have also gone into here, edit, project settings, input, and go jump, and I could have changed that to joystick 0. That would have done exactly the same thing, but I wanted to show you how to do it in a scripting way, because that's assuming you want to do something a little bit more complex. So that's a different way of solving the same problem. Okay, good luck with that.